Seeing how you've clicked on this video, I'm sure you know what you're getting yourself into. But just in case, fair warning, I'll be showing and discussing images that some viewers may find unsettling. Starting with this. If you've dipped your toes into the dark waters of the World Wide Web, then you've almost certainly encountered this image 1 or perhaps 200 times. Known as dolthing.jpg, it's been lurking on the net for nearly 2 decades, and in that time has become a staple of internet horror, appearing in countless bait-and-switch screamer videos, and blessing many of us with our first heart attack. Fun times. Given how ubiquitous dolthing's become, it's strange to think that for most of its existence, nobody knew where it originated, who made it, and crucially, what raw ingredients went into crafting it. If you're a lost media obsessive like me, then that's the kind of mystery you can really sink your teeth into. Let's start by analysing the image itself. In short, it's your standard screamer done well. A horrifying white face, with 2 bulbous eyes that stare into your soul, and a crooked mouth with bloody gums. The image has clearly been processed, with the distorted features having been pasted on top of a base photo, though it's unclear whether that was a close-up shot of a human face, an inanimate object, or a panel from a manga. Through a combined internet search effort, the first use of this particular edit was traced back to an old Japanese chain letter. On Christmas Day, 2005, a post appeared on xblog.jp, made by user Another R. For the first time, I was able to have a normal Christmas. Awesome. The 3-day weekend is over, and I'll be going back to work tomorrow. I'll leave you a Christmas present. Further. If you don't post this image on another bulletin board within 1 hour, something terrible will happen at the end of the year. There are people who have died because they didn't share this picture. Needless to say, the image started appearing on various platforms, and gained a cult-like status on 2channel, and later Nico Nico. But with both of those sites still being in their infancy, it failed to capture the attention of the wider internet. In fact, it wouldn't be until 2007 when it reappeared on a now infamous Kawaii Kusasete thread that dolthing really took off. On December 3rd of that year, a 2chananon made the following post. This child is scary as hell, so you guys have to somehow use your power to make it cute. As I've mentioned in past videos, around that same time, the Japanese internet was going crazy for Kawaii Kusasete, a creative, collaborative challenge where users turned cursed images kawaii using Photoshop. This particular thread exploded in popularity, so much so that in Japan, the image itself is commonly known as Kawaii Kusasete, in English, make me cute. Countless altered versions of the JPEG were created and shared, some of them becoming famous in their own right. Dolthing became such a widespread meme in Japan that whenever users saw it, they'd inevitably respond with phrases like, "You again," or "the same as always." Like with most memes that explode overnight, dolthing became so overused that people were tired of seeing it. With the image having run its course in its native homeland, it was only a matter of time before Old Mere Nayspace here began its journey around the world. The image finally made its Western debut in the form of the English-language creepypasta Gurgles and Bugman. Originally posted on r/nosleep by Reddit user Won't Think Straight, Gurgles and Bugman was posted on the Creepypasta wiki in mid-2014 alongside dolthing.jpg. Someone, presumably Won't Think Straight, had removed the Japanese text and used the image to portray the character of Gurgles, a clown so emaciated that he resembled a manic, grinning skeleton. The story revolved around a fictional candid camera TV show in which Gurgles and his sidekick, Bugman, snuck into people's homes and hid in the corner of their rooms. Once their victims fell asleep, the pair would crawl into bed beside them and paralyze them by sticking a sharp straw into their neck. Each episode ended with Bugman drinking from the straw and Gurgles plastering his pale face across the screen and whispering, "See you again, soon." Though a little derivative, the creepypasta did gain a small following and introduced a few people to dolthing, but the image didn't really capture global attention until it became the face of a seriously worrying Facebook page. In early June 2015, a still unknown individual or group created a Facebook account under the name Ahenabarbus Henocide. Try saying that 3 times fast. Ahenobarbus is a Latin name meaning copper-bearded, and Heno is a Greek prefix meaning one. As for side, or seared, it could be a misspelling of the Latin suffix side, meaning killer. Homicide, patricide, for example. So perhaps the account name could be roughly translated into copper-bearded destroyer of one. Maybe? Honestly, it's a bit of a stretch, but the name's not what we're focusing on here. What's more important is the account's profile picture. Look familiar? The Ahenobarbus Genocide page quickly gained notoriety for sending horrifying images of gore to their youngest followers via private messages, and sharing coordinates directing them to remote locations, like the outskirts of this hexagonal comms station in Western Australia. These coordinates often included cryptic backwards messages, like Finis Humanitas, the end of humanity. Taking things from edgy to criminal, the account would even share real-life CP videos on their timeline, which would autoplay as you scrolled past them. Most of the posts were made in Spanish, and the account quickly went viral in the Hispanic community, before inevitably being taken down by Facebook. As such, you can no longer visit the page today, not that you'd want to, but a couple of safe-for-work screenshots are still catalogued in the Wayback Machine. Living up to its cursed status, the page's profile picture spread like a virus throughout the darkest reaches of the web thereafter, but it still needed a name in English. Make Me Cute lacked context outside of Japan. Gurgles was a bit too cheesy, and Ahenobarbus Genocide too much of a mouthful. And though some do still call them those names to this day, most people began calling it dolthing.jpg, a name that would prove quite fitting. Now world famous, Dolthing became a popular screamer image, popping up unexpectedly in videos, webcomics, and online games, and though not as popular as it once was, is still considered one of the most infamous, and, in a strange sense, beloved horror images of all time, sitting alongside heavyweights like Smile Dog, The Rake, and the Russian Sleep Experiment. Although we've covered the evolution of Dolthing, Make Me Cute, Gurgles, a Hannah Montana hemorrhoid, whatever you want to call it, we're yet to touch on its inception. The image is clearly a mishmash of two or more elements, an original background image, and at least one overlay. The saturation appears to have been played around with too. This earlier edit had been found floating around online, but it could hardly be considered the original, and though this even earlier version was later unearthed, it too had seen alterations. It wouldn't be until 2021 that legendary internet sleuth, the Suburo, shared this image with his viewers. This is undoubtedly the original image that served as the basis for dolthing.jpg. The background and proportions match perfectly, as does the nose. It's a close-up shot of a particularly unnerving Ichimatsu doll. One of the Suburo's viewers had found it in a Futaba channel log, dated before the first edit of Dolthing appeared online. Given the lighting, framing, and background fabric, many suspected that the photo had been taken from an online auction listing. Tracking things back further, in 2024, this image was discovered, found hidden in the archives of a blog titled, "I'm Looking at You, Old Checkered Doll in Trouble." Coincidentally, it was found by Discord user Sufyan while searching for the original Jeff the Killer image. It's low resolution, but clearly is the same Ichimatsu doll set against the same fabric. The text confirms that the doll was listed as a junk item on Yahoo Auctions back in 2004. Recently discovered links also show that the item was discussed on an old occult thread, which, although a little eerie, does go to show that this creepy little face was destined to become a horror meme. The final parts of this mystery to crack are those eyes and the mouth. Where were they sourced from? Well, on March 31st, 2005, GeoCities user Ryu Otan shared a GIF on his personal blog, an edited cutscene from the Japanese visual novel To Hearts 2. In it, yandere text appears over a background image before cutting to a jump scare, one consisting of two familiar eyes and one familiar, toothy grin. Given that the first edit of Dolthing appeared on Xblog later that same year, it stands to reason that someone, likely another R, found the close-up shot of the doll on a forum where people were discussing it, realized it was ripe for horror treatment, and altered it by cutting and pasting the To Heart 2 screamer. He spread it via a chain letter, with the image later getting picked up by Make Me Cute enthusiasts, and the rest, as they say, is history. Strange to think that some unsuspecting person just listed their dolls in an online auction one day, hoping to get rid of what they considered a piece of junk, only for it to be transformed and become a mystery that endured for 2 decades. The internet truly does work in curious ways. Honestly though, I think this original photo actually makes me feel more uneasy than the Dolthing edit. Growing up, I found it hard to take this version too seriously, since it reminded me of those old rathergood.com animations, and I always half expected him to start singing about Crusher. But for others, he was, and still is, the stuff of nightmares, responsible for countless hours of lost sleep, and there's no denying that Dolthing.jpg left an indelible mark on the internet's collective psyche, for better or for worse. When it comes to urban legends, Japan really is the gift that keeps on giving. For instance, I'm sure you're all familiar with this image. It's been circulating online for years at this point, having been attached to countless creepypastas. But without doubt, it's most famously associated with the urban legend, Tomino's Hell. For those who aren't aware, Tomino no Jikoku, or Tomino's Hell, is a poem by Saijo Yaso, one which became famous thanks to its supposedly cursed status. Published in 1919, the author, Yaso, who was predominantly a children's writer, drafted the poem after experiencing losses in his own family, namely that of his sister and father. That sense of grief permeated into the poem's subject matter. It tells the story of Tomino and his voyage into Jikoku, the realm of hell, where those with grave sins may be reborn after paying penance. He ventures as far as Mugen Jikoku, Abichi, the deepest of the hells, a place where torments are so unending, lasting countless eons, that souls appear condemned to eternal suffering. This place awaits those guilty of the 5 gravest sins in Buddhism, creating division within the Buddhist monastic community, spilling the blood of a Buddha, killing an enlightened being, or taking the life of one's own mother or father. It's an ambiguous text, one that even native speakers have trouble wrapping their heads around. Though Yaso never explained the exact meaning behind his poem, if read literally, then we can assume that the title character, Tomino, took the life of one or both of his parents and is paying the price for his betrayal in the afterlife. But read it metaphorically, as the poem's translator David Bowles and others suggest, and it could describe the poet's intense emotional turmoil over the loss of his real-life family members, drawing a parallel between his survivor's guilt and a descent into abyss. Some scholars say that those interpretations miss the double meaning of the poem's kanji, and that it's actually an allegory for war, with Tomino being a soldier who dies on the battlefield. According to certain corners of the internet, it's perfectly safe to read the poem in your head, but if you read it out loud, then a, quote, terrible fate will befall you, be that a death in the family, a lifetime of bad luck, or the loss of one's own soul. The story used to be very popular, on 2channel particularly, so the internet's filled with stories of people reading the poem aloud, and then suddenly and mysteriously passing away, some in car wrecks, others from illness. Several forum users have reported feeling an eerie presence around them after reading the poem, only for their accounts to then turn permanently inactive. Rumors of the curse apparently predate the internet. In 1983, for example, acclaimed Japanese filmmaker Shuji Terayama died of liver failure at the age of 47, with many fans linking his premature demise to the poem he so revered, a poem which inspired his movie, Denna Nishisu. With that backstory out of the way, I'd be a fool to read the poem out loud for you all now, wouldn't I? Oh, the things I do for you guys. If you don't hear from me again, you'll know why. This is Tomino's Hell. Elder sister vomits blood. Younger sister's breathing fire, while sweet little Tomino just spits up his soul. All alone, Tomino goes falling into that hell, a hell of utter darkness, where flowers never bloom. Is Tomino's big sister the one who whips him? The purpose of the scourging weighing heavy on his mind. Lashing and thrashing him, but never quite shattering. One sure path to Abichi, the eternal hell. Would you request guidance into that blackest of hells, from the golden sheep, from the nightingale? How much did he put into that leather pouch to prepare for his trek to eternal damnation? Spring is coming, to the valley, to the wood, to the spiraling chasms of blackest doom. The nightingale in her cage, the sheep aboard the wagon, and tears well up in the eyes of sweet little Tamina. Sing, O nightingale, in the vast, misty forest. He screams he only misses his sweet little sister. His wailing desperation echoes through perdition, and a buttercup opens its golden petals. Down past the 7 mountains and 7 rivers of ruin, the solitary journey of sweet little Tamina. If in this hell they be found, may they then be brought down, those sharp spikes of punishment from high on Needle Mountain. Not just on some empty whim is flesh pierced with blood-red pins. They serve as hellish signposts that lead to sweet Tamina. It's a chilling poem, whichever way you interpret it, though not as deadly as some claim. I narrated that segment over a week ago, and I'm still kicking. Whoever did create the urban legend was most likely inspired by the chainmail craze of the early noughties, given that the myth didn't really take off until 2004. What I find far more disturbing than Tamina's hell itself is the image that's become synonymous with it, but not for the reasons you probably expect. It's actually a cropped version of the Yuko Tatsushima painting, I Can No Longer Be a Bride. This self-portrait was reportedly created after the artist was SA'd and depicts how Yuko viewed herself after the incident. The fake smile, 1,000-yard stare, and elongated neck reflect her state of mind, while the title of the piece reflects a cultural belief in Japan, where female victims of SA often face challenges with finding a husband, most being perceived as unclean and impure. So, while the image has since become associated with Yasuo's poem, and might appear creepy at first, with proper context, it becomes more than that. Both uncanny and heartbreaking. For those interested in seeing Yuko's other work, much of it can be found on her website, Underground Fortress. Learning about the origin of the Tamino image, I'm reminded of the White House gif. A couple of years back, I investigated the origin of this little animation, only to discover that it had much darker roots than anyone imagined. It was made using the photo of murder victim Reiko Takamura, and much like I Can No Longer Be a Bride, it's another example of the internet taking an image related to a tragedy and using it to create a cheap scare. And speaking of the White House gif, I have a little update to make. Recently, this higher resolution photo of Reiko was found by Gutspace over on the Lazy Masquerade Discord server. It comes from the elusive book that I mentioned at the end of the video. In 2023, an unsettling video began making the rounds on TikTok. I say video. In reality, it was a simple slideshow composed of 3 frames, but that's all it took to capture the internet's attention.
Microsoft used Bill Gates' mugshot as an outline for the default profile icon on Outlook in 2010. Gatespace.eng found on a singular copy of the Microsoft trivia tape.
The backstory to Gatespace is actually based in reality. Well, sort of. It's true that Microsoft did use the outline of old Billy Boy's mugshot as the basis for Outlook's default profile picture. He'd been arrested in 1977 for a traffic violation, and looking at a side-by-side, it obviously is his silhouette. As for the part about this PNG being found on a copy of the Microsoft trivia tape, well, that part was predictably a work of fiction. Hundreds of thousands of people viewed this new analog horror story, and its associated image quickly became a staple of PNG nightmare fuel. The comment section of the TikTok was filled to the brim with users saying how uncomfortable the image made them feel, and how they had never seen it before. Problem was, the TikTok that made this image famous was actually a re-upload, one that didn't credit the original creator. So where had gatesface.png come from? Who had made it? And what had they used as the basis for the image? One of the people with those questions swirling around their brain was fellow YouTuber Dom. He was actually one of the first to investigate where the image originated, digging through Google for clues that might lead to its creator. At the time, Googling the terms Microsoft Gatesface PNG, Gatesface Creepypasta, Gates ARG, and other variations didn't yield any answers. Reddit, Twitter, Instagram, and yes, even 4chan were all dead ends too, with only a few other netizens even questioning the picture's origin, let alone shedding light on it. Though the PNG was gaining a lot of online traction, it was mostly being posted by people saying, "Check out this creepy pic," or creative types attaching their own lore to it. Dom tried using reverse image search tools, but again, no luck. The only results that came back were unrelated black and white faces that bore a passing resemblance to Gatesface at best. But one result that did seem to be returned time and time again was Jeff the Killer. For those who haven't been following the search for JTK's origin, the most famous incarnation of Jeff is actually the last in a very long line of edits, with the original photo currently being lost media. Could Gatesface be yet another edit of the Jeff image? On the surface, that didn't make much sense, given that Gates was far more realistic than Jeff, and wasn't your typical Photoshop job. But the facial expression and pose were uncannily similar. Seemingly out of options, Dom felt like the origin of Gatesface was doomed to be forgotten. But just when hope was dwindling, he received a lead in the form of a random TikTok comment. The user, Anna, claimed that Gatesface was an AI image generated from Jeff the Killer prompts. After DMing the user, Dom was sent this image, which strongly resembled the Gatesface PNG. It obviously wasn't a perfect match, but was apparently from the same collection of AI-generated images as Gatesface was, being the same character interpolated using the same prompts. Anna was able to link Dom to Untitled 7, a TikTok sound where users drop their AI-generated horror creations. Browsing through the archive, he noticed that one slideshow stood out. Created by user Mokeman, the collection was titled Jeff the Killers. And there, on the third slide, is a very familiar looking face. Given the caption, we can safely assume that Moke used an AI model to generate some ghoulish Jeffies. This particular image, which was posted to his account on June 14th, 2023, was but one of hundreds. It's since been confirmed that the original Gatesface video was posted to TikTok by user Game5, who modified the image to create the PNG we've all come to know. They then attached it to their analog horror story, which went live on June 16th, 2 days after the original appeared on Moke's account. It was then re-uploaded and spread like wildfire. In a sense, the conclusion to this mystery is kind of sad, don't you think? It seems we're moving into an age where, thanks to AI, our favourite spooky PNGs don't really have any roots at all. Gone are the days of the collaborative make-me-cute origins. I have a feeling that in the coming years, internet horror images are going to become a lot more lifelike, but a lot more lifeless. Regardless, thanks to Dom's tenacious search, the origin of Gatesface.png has been found. His video on the subject is extremely well put together, and definitely worth checking out. Had he not put so much effort into tracking it down so early into the image's creation, then Gatesface.png may have well gone the way of Jeff the Killer, with its origin becoming just another speck in the ocean of internet content. Out there somewhere, but impossible to find. But instead, we can safely put the mystery surrounding Gatesface to bed, and hope he doesn't come to visit us in ours tonight. I'm sure you're all well acquainted with this deformed face, whether you want to be or not. Though a relatively new inductee into the cursed image pantheon, it's quickly become a staple of analog horror, having already featured in a plethora of creepypastas, SCP stories, and ARGs, though perhaps it's best known for being the avatar of Pinhead, a character in the Roblox horror comedy experience, Nico's Nextbots, where players get chased around by the screaming PNGs of internet anomalies. The Nextbot wiki describes Pinhead as, quote, having no pigmentation, hair, lips, or eyebrows. Its skin is pale, and it has dead eyes, surrounded by dim shadows. It also has a convex nose and a large, smiling mouth with blood coming out of it. In the old version, he's brighter. But as players are well aware, the image used for the Nextbots themselves are all taken from various corners of the internet and include the likes of Selena Delgado and the aforementioned Dollthing. That strongly suggests that Pinhead was sourced from elsewhere. Reverse image searches turn up hundreds of re-uploads, but where it seems to have begun gaining traction is through a YouTube video uploaded by Brugli. In his video, titled "Don't Fall Asleep in the Backrooms," Brugli explains his original concept for Entity 832, aka Pinhead. This seems to be where one Nico Patti, the creator of Nico's Nextbots, ripped both the image and the character's name. Uploaded in May 2022, Brugli's video makes extensive use of this image, with the description stating that the entity was custom made. But that statement refers to the story, and not the associated image. In July 2021, 10 months before the Brugli video, Reddit user and artist Ashveep posted this image to the Trevor Henderson subreddit. This is clearly the unedited original image that serves as the basis for Pinhead. It's much larger and far more detailed than the JPEG that we've all come to know. The image is marked as original content, so we can safely say that Ashveep is the creator of the image that would come to be known as Pinhead. Browsing through Ashveep's profile, it's clear that they're a huge fan of the game, Dead by Daylight, and I can't help but wonder whether this piece was an attempt at designing their own antagonist. Regardless, their image received hundreds of upvotes and began spreading to other subreddits the following day. We can assume then that someone, perhaps Brugli or one of his editors, found the image, applied some filters, and lowered the resolution to give it an analog horror aesthetic, then used it as the basis for Entity 832. One Nico Patti then further edited the image and inserted it into Nico's Nextbots. This edit then began saturating the net through horror memes and ARGs, haunting social media networks across the globe. Today, it stands shoulder to shoulder with the internet's most recognizable scary monsters and super creeps, and will likely be sticking around for a while. Before the video ends, I'd like to say a huge thank you to my supporters here on YouTube and over on Patreon, especially my biggest supporters: Dan Stefanovic, Cool Dude Organ, George Lopez, Holly Lyons, Modest Bulbasaur, Zach Horgan, Alana Pons, Asia Mina, Azrael Warakai, Chief Kochuake, Colin Monsma, Connor Lothan, Enzo is a Good Boy, Farewell Tattoos Jack Seffel, Gina Valera, Grace Archie, Hamish, Ian Belloc, Misty Blue Longy, Peter Logdredge, TNS Mum, Terry Ford, Pray to Jesus, LJB, Itai Alon, and Nephus 1988. Thank you guys so much for your continued support.